Hello, I'm Gwen Edwards. Welcome to Our Lives, a second chance to put your life in order. This is the wish of many. The state of Connecticut is doing just that, giving nonviolent offenders another chance under the state's Second Chance Society law. President Obama is also pushing to do the same on the national level. He spoke about his new proposal to reform the criminal justice system at the NAACP annual National Convention in Philadelphia in July. Mr. Obama says statistics show that in far too many cases, the punishment does not fit the crime. The president says it looks like members of both political parties are starting to see the need for this change. My first two guests attended the NAACP National Convention in Philadelphia. Attorney Darnell Crolsand is the president of the Norwalk branch of the NAACP, and Jamal Beezer is from Atlanta, Georgia, and he also attended the National Convention, and he's also the nephew of Darnell. We want to welcome both of you to Our Lives.
Thank you for having us.
All right, now Darnell, you make a living in the criminal justice system. Your opinion of the president's push to reform it?
I think it's a good step to starting the dialogue that needs to be a national dialogue. So it's important that the states tune into what the president's saying and do all that they can do in the individual states to make that come to fruition. So our second chance amendments and laws, I think, are right in connection to what the president wants to do.
And what impressed you most about Mr. Obama's plans?
I think what impressed me most, one, is that he showed that he had a heart for the people who were incarcerated. He made it clear that what we normally joke about, rape in prison, is something we shouldn't joke about. He made it clear that these people who are in prison deserve a second chance and that they are going to come out into society, and if they're not ready, then we're going to be in a worse place than we were, and that was very impressive.
And Jamal, your reaction to the president's speech?
I think it was pretty amazing. It was my first time hearing him speak in person, and I think the subject that he spoke about was one that connected the president to the people, because with past presidents, it was the president's this figure up in the White House that makes decisions that I wouldn't say don't affect our everyday life, but affect our lives in a different way that we sometimes don't notice. But the reform that he's talking about will affect people's families, will affect people's children, and it'll just help the community.
Are you surprised, Darnell, to hear that the president's proposal is getting bipartisan support?
I was, and many people said, why now are we talking about helping people in prison? Why now are we talking about second chances when the rhetoric has always been lock them up and throw away the key? That made people feel better at night in the past. But I said it before and I'll say it again. The reason why the rhetoric is changing now is because the very people who are voting now, the very people who are getting more involved, are the very people that you were saying lock up and throw away. And now we realize that those people are involved, and you can't tell them that and expect to get their votes. These people are more conscious now. I think when President Obama got elected, he opened up and awakened a bunch of people who weren't otherwise tuned in, as Jamal said, because they didn't feel like they were involved. It was disconnected. But we're involved now, we're ready to go, and that's why the rhetoric is changing.
And Jamal, some of the other highlights from the National Convention, what areas of concern are you hearing from your friends?
My friends, back in Atlanta, I'm a part of a youth activism group, and we normally talk about police brutality and what to do when stopped by the cops, and especially with the new case with Sandra. I think I went to a class one morning, and it was talking about police brutality and what to do when stopped by the cops, and I just need people to know that you respect the cop, you are compliant in all ways. Even if you don't like cops, if you hate cops, you have to obey the cop, because he sometimes is having a bad day and probably, just wants to abuse his power. And I need people to obey whatever he says. It could be the craziest thing. Just obey so he doesn't have anything to say.
It's such powerful words coming from a young person. And this case in particular seems to have been an argument over a cigarette.
Yes.
With Sandra, and I have the right to smoke, and we know you have rights. We all have rights. We understand that. But in those circumstances, you want to get home alive, and that should be your first priority. And then all the issues about your rights can be straightened out later. Okay, we want you two to stay where you are because we want to continue our conversation. We're going to talk more about the efforts to reform the criminal justice system when Our Lives continues. You stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Connecticut is leading the nation when it comes to prison reform. Recently, Governor Darnell signed into law the Second Chance Society law passed by state lawmakers. We'll learn more about this law right now. Darnell Crolsand is the president of the Norwalk branch of the NAACP. He's also a practicing attorney. And Jamal Beezer is visiting here in Connecticut from Atlanta, Georgia, and he is the nephew of Darnell. Now, Darnell, the Second Chance Society law just passed here in Connecticut, but what does it mean to our criminal justice system?
You know, it's a good question because in Connecticut we have a lot of diversionary programs. We have one that's used quite often, which is the AR program, the Accelerated Rehabilitation. So if you have no record, you have no convictions, you can apply for that program for your first offense, and in a year or two you can have your charges wiped away. We have the Alcohol Education Program, works a similar way. We have the DEP, Drug Education Program. So many people said, opponents will say, you know, why second chance? We've always been given chances, but they're missing the point here. The point here is not just those who are first-time offenders, but those who are in the system who need a second chance at getting their records expunged, who need a second chance at perhaps not having to fill yes on the felony box. Is a greater dialogue that helps those people reintegrate into society. So it's not just the first-time offender who can get a program and go home. We're looking at those who are incarcerated, how they're going to reacclimate to society, and I think that's what our lawmakers are talking about, and I applaud them for that.
And one of the things that the governor noted is that a person coming out of prison today can barely get a job, let alone a student loan. How do they get that second chance if that record is following them everywhere they go?
Impediments, and we have to knock down those impediments, or else we'll be hypocrites to say that where they pay their dues, now they're coming out and we don't make it any easier for them to get back into society, and we open a door just for them to reoffend, and that's not what we want in Connecticut.
And Jamal, you are hoping one day to follow in your uncle's footsteps and become an attorney. Why? Why are you interested in law?
Why am I interested in law? Well, ever since I was a little boy.
You're 13 now.
I'm 15.
15,
but,
excuse me.
But ever since I was about I'd say 6, I always loved to argue. I loved arguing. I loved justice. I didn't know what the word meant, but I loved it. So my mom told me, you know your uncle's a lawyer, you like arguing, go see what's up. So at the time, I was in a program in Atlanta called the Junior DAs, and it was a prosecuting program where it tells you about the life of a prosecutor. It goes every day. It's about 2 weeks at camp, and you learn everything about prosecuting. So I did want to be a prosecutor, and it was an amazing camp. And then the summer following, I came up and visited my uncle, and I loved being a lawyer. I loved going to court every day. I loved dealing with clients, dealing with judges. I meet with judges in their chambers. It's amazing. It's an amazing experience, and that's what really made me want to be a lawyer. Being with my uncle and doing these camps in Atlanta, it just put me being a lawyer set in stone, as people say.
and your advice for young people who are unsure of themselves when it comes to interacting with authority?
Well, in my group down in Atlanta, we always encourage kids, no matter if they love to revolt against their parents or government, you have to know how to be a conformist, nonconformist. Conform when need be, but always know in the back of your mind who you are, how you go about your life, and your personal style. Because you have to realize that even though you must hate your mom or hate something, you have to realize, is my hate worth my life? Is my hate worth being on punishment for the rest of my life. You have to think about these things before you just go and revolt against society, because I think people don't think about that part when they go, and then they regret it and they have to live with these repercussions and consequences of their actions. So that's my advice. Just think about the bigger picture before you just go messing it up.
Well, we want to thank you so much. That advice is so well spoken for a 15-year-old, excuse me.
Yeah.
And we want to thank you both for coming and sharing your insight as to the new push to reform the criminal justice system, but more importantly, understanding how our young people are thinking and helping them to learn how to navigate their way through the system as well. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
All righty.